The O.J. Simpson trial resumes today with more testimony expected from an L.A. police detective. Now, the faces in the Simpson trial have become as familiar as soap opera stars. That includes not just O.J. Simpson, but the lawyers prosecuting and defending him. It is justice as theater at times. Some would argue it's just the latest example of a trial circus. Consider the case of Colin Ferguson, the man now convicted of killing 6 people on a New York commuter train. He was allowed to defend himself, and his appeal has already been announced. What's happening with our system of justice? Joining us now, a former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Joseph DeGeneva, and trial lawyer Joel DuBoff. Thank you both for coming in.
Good morning.
Yeah, these high-profile cases, are they aberrations, or are they telling us something needs to be fixed here?
Well, I think they're more of a reflection of where we're starting from. We're talking about a society right now that, you have to understand Los Angeles, there's camps out there, and in terms of what we have there, we have the white area, the Spanish-American area, the black area, and there's a fourth one, the police area. And the police have a history, unfortunately, in Los Angeles of doing things untoward. And what happens is that their antagonism between the 4 camps has made us look at it more thoroughly, or more, I guess, more uniquely than we had before. For example, in the 70s and the early 80s, we had a situation where the LA police did something on black people called chokeholds, where they would choke people. And that got a lot of attention. Now we have a situation where we have a high-profile individual, O.J. Simpson, and you know, everybody says, say it ain't so, O.J. He's a good man, but the situation is such that we have to understand this is really a big trial because of O.J. Simpson.
Yeah. Are you concerned, because it appears to some in the Simpson case that he gets to have different hearings, the defendant has rights to testing, the jury gets to visit the crime, the things that are very expensive that add to the cost of the trial because it drags it out so much, something that many people would not have the opportunity. Is it unfair justice, a different kind of justice?
It is a different kind of justice, but it is a justice that Mr. Simpson can afford. Even in public defender cases, the defendants are entitled to certain experts themselves, and the Supreme Court has allowed them. Now they can get experts of their own. But anytime a case like this comes to the fore and we focus on it, it magnifies the problems. There are problems like this every day in court. They're just not as magnified. A trial is not a pretty thing to watch generally in a criminal case. There are lots of bizarre things that happen every day. The problem is when you focus on something like this, everything gets magnified. Although, in my opinion, it's been a good educational experience for the American people. They're learning a lot about the good and the bad and the imperfect of the criminal justice system.
Yeah. A lot of lawyers are saying this never should have happened, that justice was mocked. We've seen lots of articles that indicate that many lawyers were appalled that he was allowed to defend himself. Yes? No?
Well, they were wrong. Obviously, he acquitted himself very well in terms of the manner in which he performed. In cross-examination, he was very good. His downfall was when he had to direct, that is, put on his own case, because then he had to know the legal niceties and technicalities of how to put on a case without leading questions. And he broke down. And his only one witness, he couldn't even get one question to be asked and then answered because he didn't do the proper thing as to wait to ask a question. But when he had to be reactive in the cross-examination, he did a very good job.
Right. One other point, just quickly, our time is almost gone. The cost to taxpayers, because Ferguson now may appeal, competence may be one of the grounds. Is it ever too much? How long do we let these things go on and on and on? In the Susan Smith case that may bankrupt the county trial fund, that one trial.
It is a very serious problem for small political jurisdictions which have limited budgets when a major case occurs in their midst. But there isn't much that can be done about that because the Constitution provides for representation, it provides for access to expert witnesses, it provides for a public trial, and this is something that the American people have learned to live with. Only now, as more of these cases occur, the cost is becoming more obvious. And there's really nothing we can do about it.
You agree? Nothing
I agree. I think there's nothing to really worry about. When Mayor Barry said that we're going to clean the streets, it wasn't a matter of what cost. The same thing in terms of justice. Los Angeles, of course, has to ask money from the state, but this is the state of California versus O.J. Simpson. So it's not just Los Angeles, the problem out there. And probably the same thing in New York City.
Well, thank you both for coming in. Interesting discussion about the state of the law. 7:33 now. Coming up on Fox 4 News, the contract with America, good government or good politics, that and more off the...
I directed him to do that, and I believe I mentioned to check the entire gate.
All right. And you expected that to be done, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Now, it was not done on June 13th, was it?
No.
In fact, it wasn't done on June 14th, was it?
That's correct.
And neither the 15th.
That's correct.
In fact, it was not done until July 3rd, 3 weeks later, is that right?
That's correct.
So did Fung come back out there on July 3rd, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you're aware that this crime scene at Bundy had been washed down at some point on June 13th to June 14th, is that correct?
I'm aware that the front walkway was washed down.
All right, and what date was that?
I don't know. I assumed it was a day or two after the crime scene was struck.
Would it be safe in saying it was washed down at least by the 14th of June, sir? That'd be safe?
I don't know.
So a day or two, June 13th, would be the 14th or 15th, right?
I just assumed that. I don't know exactly when it was washed down.
All right. Certainly the crime scene itself was broken down by 3 o'clock or so in the afternoon on the 13th, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
You read the log yesterday, right?
Correct.
All right. And that meant that people were free to go and come with regard to those premises, is that correct?
No.
That meant that the police department had finished their business at that location, isn't that correct, sir?
No.
Sir, if you had known that Fung had not collected and sought to preserve any blood spots that were allegedly on this back fence, you would not have released that crime scene, would you have?
No, I wouldn't have.
You wouldn't have, would you?
No.
Okay. But it was released on the 13th, isn't that correct?
No, it was not released to the public.
Well, let's see now. Was the crime scene released on the 13th, sir?
Oh. The crime scene was secured. The residence was secured. The gates were locked.
Was the crime scene released on the 13th, Detective Lang?
We completed our initial crime scene investigation on the 13th. Yes, but I got the inference that you were trying to say it was open to the public, and that's not the case.
No, you shouldn't try to get any inferences from my question.
Oh,